Okay, we're going.
Hi, I'm Becky with Malvern Books, and welcome. Tonight, we're very happy to be with you for another evening of an installment of the Austin Community College Creative Writing Department's Literary Coffee House and Open Mic. Our host tonight is Charlotte Gulick, Chair of the Creative Writing Department at ACC, and their featured reader tonight is Stephanie Macias. Charlotte, you take that over?
Yep. Thank you so much to Becky and to Joe and to Malvern Books. I say this every time, but it's really important to spend your dollars wisely and support Malvern Books. Holidays are coming up, so they have an amazing collection of books. And if you haven't been in, the store is so beautiful, and they have a really easy way to like make an appointment, and then you feel like I'm royalty because I'm the only person in the store right now, and it makes you feel really awesome. And they have all these recommendations, so I cannot say thank you enough to Malvern Books for their partnership and their important anchoring of our community in the literary arts. So I am chair of the creative writing department at Austin Community College. A lot of you have taken classes with us, and registration opened today for the spring. So if you're thinking about taking a class, or you know someone who's thinking about taking a class, this would be the time to start getting that rolling. And a couple of announcements. Next month, we will have on November 8th, our literary coffee house will be with Kendra Crystal, who is a singer, writer, actress, and I'm just pulling this from their Twitter feed. It's Southern Fried, God-fearing drag queen. I've heard her read before, and it's super awesome. So I hope you can join us on November 8th. And then another event we have on November 17th is in celebration of Native American Heritage Month, which begins in November. We have two writers, Joan Kane and Danielle Geller, who will be doing a reading. And one of our creative writing faculty, Ursula Pike, will be moderating. So that info will be out and about in the community soon. So I encourage you to attend those events. So it's super exciting to be introducing Stephanie. So we have so many success stories in the creative writing department. People who've just started out, people who are returning to writing, people who are tentatively exploring whether they have a voice or not. And we welcome you all. And we have a lot of different genres. And Stephanie came to us, a dedicated, incredible writer, and who I think said, I need community, I need workshopping, I need to gain some confidence, and I need to gain some skill in what I'm doing because I want to apply to grad school. And we have a lot of people who do that. And Stephanie came in, and I think it's appropriate to say that she kicks some ass. And she is such a generous workshopper, so kind to her fellow students and fellow writers. And it's been really cool to watch her set out for this thing and get it. And hopefully we'll get an update. And what did she get? Well, I'll read her bio. So now you can hear what she went after and what she got. One of the things. So Stephanie Mccaius is a writer, artist, and musician living in Austin, Texas. She is currently an MFA candidate in the New Writers Project at the University of Texas at Austin. She has worked on a novel and a collection of short stories. So she set out to get accepted into an MFA program. She got accepted New Writers, which is very, very difficult to do. I'm not surprised that she got accepted. And I love her story so much because it brings such an angle and such a like a really interested eye in what makes us tick as human beings, whether we're like in a ditch or whether we're out in space. I've read both kinds of stories. And let me just say this. So when we get to the open mic, I will ask you to put your name in the chat, and then I'll call on you in the order in which you are called. If you are thinking of reading in compliance with the awesome guidelines that Malvern has set out, we ask that you don't read scenes that have torture, no rape scenes, no animal cruelty, and no racially motivated profanity. Of course, you can write what you need to write, but being judicious in what you share with an audience is how we are responsible literary citizens. You never know what you're going to say that can be quite triggering for someone. And I have learned so much from Malvern for establishing those guidelines that I'm really grateful for it. So, Stephanie, I'm so excited that you're going to read to us today. And what shall you read?
So in the spring, I took a class with Edward Carey, who is incredible, on fairy tales. And one of the things that we had to do was write a fairy tale, right? So I actually wrote two different fairy tales. One of them that I used for class that ended up being a little more in line with how we were looking at fairy tales. And then this story sort of popped out, and maybe it has some of that feel, some of that fantastical feel for sure. But it's just kind of been chasing me through the summer. And I'm actually taking a letterpress class at this time. And my final project will be making a little book of this story in particular with some illustrations and stuff. So yeah, that's what I'll be reading. It's called My Sister's Foot is Haunted.
Well, I'm quite intrigued. And, you did say in your bio that you're a musician and artist, and I'll ask you some more about the overlap between mediums and how, being a musician, how does that feed you as a writer, vice versa, those kind of things. So, and in terms of the story chasing you, where is the chase?
I think for me, as far as chasing me, I knew that I had done some things in this story that I was excited about. And I would sort of, as I'm working through other stories, I would sort of just remember the story or remember this little line that I wrote in it and be like, yes, I'm so excited about that story. And it's shorter, right? It's on the shorter side. So it doesn't, sometimes those things, especially at this point in my career where I'm workshopping stories and working on a novel, those shorter things don't get the attention that all the other things tend to get. And so it's kind of been my little pet that I've just like worked on my own time and thought about on my own time. And now I'll be making some illustrations on my own time for it. And so it just tends to feel closer and closer to me as I move to making a little book out of it. But yeah.
Pretty lucky to get to share your pet with you.
I hope so.
If you're ready, please start.
Okay. My sister's foot is haunted. She wears a red sock to keep it quiet. Every morning, mother brings her a new red sock, and sister takes off the old one and says, "You get one thing." The foot makes demands. At first, it's nothing really. Lotion and a fan, a massage, a tickle, sand. Easy enough, mother says, and we load up in her busted sedan. At the beach, sister removes the red sock and buries the foot like treasure. "Leave us," she says, and they get to talking. After 30 minutes of sweating and squinting under the bald sun, mother hands me a Coke she'd brought along in her purse and tells me to take it to sister. She pronounces soda. "Coke, mother, just say Coke." She turns to me and, with a firm hand on my back, pushes me away into the salty wind that stings the mosquito bites where I've scratched them raw, over to sister who sits in the frothy tide. The incoming waves curdle around that greedy foot. It's just a foot. You'd never know it was haunted, except that if you look close, rose gold light emanates from within. Mother is complaining, I say, and I need to get back to cook dinner. You know he'll be mad if I'm gone again. Sister looks up. You're a good wife, Louisa. Then she stands and dusts the ass of her flimsy summer dress and takes the Coke from me. A passing jogger, a glistening man without a shirt, stares at her, his head twisting as he runs past. But I don't let her affect me. You're all wet, I say. You'll make a mess in the car. Thank you, she says, and looks me in the eye. This is what makes her the worst. No one can hear the foot's demands but her. We are taking her word for it because of who she is. Poor little almost widow, severed from her poor little almost husband, who died from a quick, strange illness. Look at how she cares for her mother, even though she hurts. No one feels a thing for you once you're married off. I'm pregnant, I say. Stop lying about that. I dig the toe of my chancla in the sand. What's it want? To drive home. Well, we're going, come on. Sister stares out at the car for me to put him on the pedal, to push him down. So it's a man, I say. It's the first time I worry. The next morning, I'm at Mother's house when the red sock comes off, and Mother brings a faded, shabby pink replacement. Mother calls socks sockatines, an embarrassing combination of English and Spanish. Choose one, I tell her. No one, a bowl of Fritos, Sister interrupts me. It wants to eat, Mother says. He says it's for me, and Sister smiles. As Mother puts the new sock on, we realize the foot is nearly the same bubblegum color. The light has lost its golden happy hue. When Sister presses her finger to the skin, it turns corpse white. She winces. Are you okay? She yells as though the foot is deaf. Mother shoos me out of the room to get the Fritos. In her daughters, she has cultivated a cursed love for Fritos and cream cheese. I bring the little white tub for good measure. Opening the bag and the tub, I eat the first creamy scoop on the first salty chip. In case these are haunted too, I say through my chewing. Sister eats real slow, crunches minimally because the foot has gone silent. Ever since she ate the peach I brought home from the little witch, the foot hasn't shut up. What's it got to be so quiet about now? The love of a sister is volatile. It can spoil unexpectedly. But who's to say that even then it's not love? I washed the peach and set it whole on a plate. Sister loved her fiance because he was as good as her. That's enough to doom anyone. I'd warned her about their goodness, reminded her that sugar rots teeth, even showed her my silver fillings to drive the point home. I knew she would have done anything for him. She would have been powerless all her life, and that's no way to marry. I balanced the rolling peach on the plate all the way to her room. Sometimes she slept the whole day in her dusky room full of body smell. When her fiance died of the quick, strange illness, I hadn't expected her to be so gross. She was supposed to snap back to herself, her clean, kind self. It wasn't like her, this unwashed helplessness. So I'd gone to the witch and asked for a spell in a peach, like any concerned sister would. How was I to know the spell would sink in her body, down through her heart and stomach and womb, down through one leg and lodge itself in one foot? How was I to know the foot would instantly glow with love for her? That I should have known. Look at the world looking at sister. Yes, that I should have known. The peach is blessed, I said. Got it from the little witch. Sister sat up. Curandera. Fine, healer. Even in the dark, at her lowest, Sister's beauty was so thick it suffocated me. She needed protection from herself. I raised the peach to her lips. Open up. And I guess because she was so sad, she did. The foot and sister grow close. She stopped sleeping so much. She cooks for Mother. She brings me and my husband pecan pies from the grocery store and the packs of watermelon gum I like. All of the foot's demands are meant for her now. Bubble baths and cakes and kittens that tickle the foot with their Velcro tongues. Sister grows fat, spoiled, more like me. But she also limps happily, favoring the culprit. This morning, I've snuck into Mother's to borrow milk and witnessed the removal of the red sock, only to find the foot is purple, nearly black. It's choking, Sister says. She looks as though she might cry, her lips tightening in their corners. I try not to smile. Mother says, "Aye," and grabs hold of my arms. Then she sees her milk carton in my hands. She takes it from me, scolding me with squinted eyes. What? I say. It's choking, Sister says, but it wants. Mother sets the milk on the table and takes Sister's hand. ¿Qué quiere? What does it want? I say slowly, eyeing Mother and snatching up the milk again. Sister wraps a delicate hand around the foot. Her nails are painted red too. It wants an axe. I barge into the witch's shop. What did you do? I demand. Her customers step aside as if I'm the haunted sister. I snatch their money candles and Virgin Mary statues and shake them in my fists. The shop is located in the corner of a strip mall. Nothing sacred about it. You believe this dog fart of a woman? I say. Money and prayer? Idiots. The witch watches me from behind her counter. She's small, but built like the trunk of a tree. All muscle. No fat, like she's better than us. Despite her authority, the customers flee. The door's electronic bell pealing in their wake. I set the candle and statue on the counter, straighten my dress, and say, "What did you sell me?" "What you asked for," she says. "A lowering of standards, no?" "To match me, not to be haunted." "You are haunted, Hitha. Don't daughter me." I grind my teeth and reach for the candle and statue again. The witch scoops them up and sets them out of my reach. "Your sister falls for a foot. You don't think that standard is low enough?" "Who did you put in the peach?" The witch pulls a dry rag from behind the register and wipes the glass counter between us. "You're a dark heart, Louisa. So dark you never saw it coming." I lean forward and spread my hands on the glass. It's stuck in her foot. It wants an axe. What the hell kind of ghost gets stuck? The witch throws the rag at me and points at the counter. Then she steps out the back door of her shop. I wipe the glass, but watch the door. She returns carrying an 8-pound maul, its handle as red as sister's newest sock. "Do as it asks," she says, "and all will be forgiven." "Really?" "By me," she says. "Not sure how you'll make it up to your sister." Mother says she won't do it because as a mother, you swear to never harm your children. Physically, I clarify. She makes her mouth into a knot. The axe sits on its head in mother's kitchen. Its red handle rises to my belly button. I can only lift it by making my entire body a muscle. Mother and I stand around it while sister sits with her foot raised on a chair. Mother pronounces CH like SH and SH like CH. Share for chair, shame for shame, as in for shame, Louisa. "You do it," sister says to me, her eyes large and wet. Nobody mentions my husband. He's always at work, and besides, I can already hear it. "What have you done now, Louisa?" "I can't," I say. The foot bulges like the belly of a worm-ridden dog. There is no light left in it. It's oily and black, some pupa shifting within, and I hear it. It's almost husband's voice, that low timbre, even lower now, rattling at the back of my throat. "You did this, Louisa. You. Now fix it." "Do you forgive me?" I say. "I do," sister says, even though I wasn't talking to her. And she looks me in the eye, and it's so horrible, I muscle up the maul and swing it over my head like a red rainbow and sever the foot at the ankle. Sister's warm blood splatters my hands and face. Everyone in the room screams, and the screams turn into cold light that blinds us. When we quiet, when the light recedes, oh, you wouldn't believe that a foot can become a flesh and blood man, a much loved man, a too good man, a fiance months dead from a quick, strange illness that was really just poisoning, that was really just innocent mushrooms in a soup that was really cooked by me. Everyone is so happy. No one cares that sister's foot is gone for good. The righteous witch would tell me to consider this satisfaction and forgiveness all rolled into one. But my sister is made up of many parts, and I love her too much to quit.
What? So fantastic. Oh, I have so many questions for you. First of all, is that your first time reading it out loud?
Yes.
So how did that feel?
That felt good. I will say I like half practiced this morning, but it's like when I practice, it's real early. And so sometimes I'm like, I don't know if it'll sound like that when I say it again. But yeah.
You read it beautifully.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's so stunning how many emotional notes it hits. How many words is it approximately?
I think it's like 1,800.
Dang.
Yeah.
I wrote down so many lines, Stephanie. Whoa. Do you know the word squint is used in it a lot?
That's good to know. We're workshopping right now.
No, but I don't think it's a bad thing. I things like it, to me, it makes it feel like the characters are trying to see. So it's not like, I'm not saying like repetition in a bad way, like repetition in an effective way. So after 30 minutes of sweating and squinting is one of the lines, right? And then there's a little squinting. No one feels a thing when you're married off. Such a great line. And then just that when the character finds out that it's a man, and this is the first time I was worried. Okay, so I'm wondering if you can talk to us about your process, because it is like it's mystery, it's a little bit of horror, there's comedy in it. Did you know you were striving for all of those notes, or it just kind of came out that way?
I think it just kind of came out that way. I feel like I'm always trying for humor, and I'm always wanting humor. The harder thing for me is like letting, or is like finding the note underneath it, right? Because humor for humor's sake sometimes doesn't really work. So finding that like underneath current, with all the emotional notes happening, right, can be tougher for me, because I think at the beginning I'm always just trying to make myself laugh or entertain myself, really, when I'm at the front, at the first draft. But yes, I actually did not know that was going to be the end. I just wrote it, and as I got to the end, I could even feel myself resisting it and be like, no, it's going there, it's going. Like, so yeah, I think I've realized pretty quickly that I've realized from trying different ways of, first drafts and stuff, that I'm definitely not a person who knows what's happening in the story as I'm writing. I love just the ride, right? I like just figuring it all out as I'm going. More interesting stuff happens that way in my experience, right? I think over the summer, I was trying to do a lot of plotting for short stories, and I just was miserable. I just did not like it at all. I was bored with everything I was writing. And when the semester started again, I said, I'm just going to write a new short story from this idea I've had. I haven't thought about it too much. It's just been in my head. And it came out so fast and so good. Like it was just like, I was just so excited, and I was like, okay, then maybe that's saying something, right? I spent the whole summer trying to like control everything. And then the minute I like step away from that and I do something, it just turns out like a dream. It's just amazing. So I think I'm still learning those things about myself as I'm moving through this.
It's great to hear all of that. When did you know she had done the soup? Did you know at the beginning? Did you know at the end? Did you know in the middle?
At the end.
You did.
And when it was happening.
It's like, oh, this is what this is.
Yeah.
So that's a really good example of writing towards the stuff that surprises us. Like,
yep.
What is the phrase? The surprisingly quick disease?
Oh, quick, strange illness. Quick, strange.
Did you know how that connected to the soup?
No, in fact, that actually in the first draft, I think I just had it that he had, like, as I was moving, it just that he was gone, right? As I was moving through, and not until I got to the end did I realize that this was the cause, right? And then, of course, in revision, you go back and you add these little pieces, right, that will be fulfilled in the end.
It's a very satisfying short story. So it's pretty cool to get to hear talk about the process. A couple of questions. One in the chat is, did you know if you were writing a short story or longer when you began the ride?
So like I was saying, I wrote it for this fairy tale class, and I knew that I was going to have to, whatever story I brought to class, I was going to have to read out loud. And I obviously don't have unlimited time to read a short story aloud. Also, we'd been reading these fairy tales that were very short, and they had all of those crazy emotional notes in these very short spaces, right? I mean, sometimes they're doing insanely wild things. But talking about all of those little things that are happening with those moves, I knew I wanted to write something really short with a lot of moves in it, the way that a short story, the way that a fairy tale sort of feels.
I was looking at my notes because I was, the screams turn into light. So good. Okay, I know that I would probably just talk to you about this story all night, but I know there are probably a couple people who would like to know, what is it like to be in the New Writers Project at UT? What has that experience been like, if you're comfortable talking about that?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely amazing. So obviously I got in last year. My entire first year was online, right? For obvious reasons. I was a little bummed about it, but like the minute I started workshopping and going to classes, and it was just, I feel like that first semester I grew so fast. I just like, I felt like I was exploding. I feel like the brain was just like, just overloading in a really good way, right? And even the second semester, I took a novel writing workshop with Elizabeth McCracken, and I had a novel to work with, and that too was just incredible. You don't get to talk about novels a lot in MFA programs, right? Because workshops are sort of built for short stories. It's harder to bring a novel to a workshop. To have a workshop dedicated to novels was amazing, and to be able to read all of my cohorts' different novels that they were working on, and it was just incredible. But I think more than anything, the community is just really amazing. Just knowing that I have access to all of these incredible writers is just, I could never have I don't know. It's just, I don't have words to say. It's just amazing. I'm just really, I feel very lucky all the time that I'm in this place and with these people. And the really beautiful thing is knowing that I will leave that place, but I will still know those people, and I will still talk to those people and have access to those people. So it's like, I am here with this community that I will have for the rest of my life, right? And community that feels very, very tight, close knit, especially in the New Writers Project. There were only 3 fiction writers each year, right? So the 3 of us are BFFs pretty much, and it's great. I feel like I wound up with the right 3, in the right group of 3. And then even the groups around me, the cohorts around me, and the New Writers Project closely mingles with the Mishner students too. So it feels just like this big group of awesome, awesome writers. And I feel so freaking lucky all the time.
They accepted only 3 people. How's your inner critic doing with that?
I think I'm okay.
You're okay?
Yeah.
I know, sometimes there's imposter syndrome and all that stuff. But
yeah.
Is
there
that
was some of that at the beginning for sure?
Yeah.
Yeah, especially going into that first workshop and reading a couple of people who were just freaking out. I just was like, oh crap. Oh crap, right? Everyone's incredible here. But it's really great. Those moments of getting someone's, work in a workshop and seeing just how incredible it is, it just makes you excited to write more for yourself and get better at what you're doing. And I love that sort of excitement at learning about this person and their work, and knowing that you get to follow them for the rest of their career. And then the excitement of knowing that I'm here to kind of feed off of all of this awesome writing around me and get better myself, right?
Awesome. That's great. I think 2 more questions. Although I could probably talk to you for like 24 hours straight about this story. But so what's your advice for someone who is thinking about applying to MFA programs? Like that's a process all in itself. It's really a hard process with a lot of rejection and a lot of uncertainty. Did you have anything in particular that grounded you, or do you have any thoughts on that?
So I'm a classic over preparer. So I will say I started really early with my story I wanted to choose and my letter. In the world of the letter, of the, letter your intent, right? Your letter of intent, statement of purpose. That was helpful. I think starting early was really helpful. I think I started way too early on my story, because I ended up using a story that was totally different from the one I was like doing that too, it's I also did a lot of research. If anybody wants some of my research, I can throw you a file of places I looked into, but it was intense. It was intense. But they do say this, and I just want to reiterate it. It's the quality of the work is what matters, right? Like, so it's your story that matters. So in my opinion, I needed to write more stories, which is why I got to that, right before the turn-in date. And I found my newer stories were probably better than the older stories, because I was writing more stories and getting better. And so in my opinion, I think trying to write a bunch of stories, and edit, not just writing the stories, but editing the stories and revising, doing more of that will prepare you, I think, more than anything.
Great. And then my last question is, do you feel like My Sister's Foot is Haunted is finished?
That was a really hard question. I have not gotten to a place where I felt like anything was finished. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that it's, in my brain, the way that I see it, it's 90% there.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's probably some tweaking that I would do.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm close.
It feels really polished from having heard it. And so it feels finished to this listener.
Okay.
Who's certainly no expert, but just like, I think it's interesting to check in with people. Like, that was an amazing piece to have read. And are you satisfied with it yet? Like, I think that's an interesting area to talk about. So thank you for answering that.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I think that's been hard too. I think figuring out what feels done, right? Especially, I don't know if you guys have talked in class about submissions yet, or that sort of thing, submitting your work. That to me is so hard, because I know that I should do it, but like, I also love time for my stories. I love for my stories to sit and not be looked at for a while, right? And sometimes these kind of processes that we have in the career are not good for that, or don't allow for that sort of thing. So I find myself sort of turning in drafts that, yes, I love the draft, but in my brain thinking, what if I take this out in 6 months and I still want to work on it? Or I still feel like there's some, there's still stuff that needs to be done. I just kind of have to be okay with that, right? I have to be okay with, I'm going to get 6 months down the road and maybe need to work on it more if I don't know. I'm also growing so fast and changing as a writer so fast. And I think that's what a program is designed to do, right? That it's interesting to go back and read something that I wrote maybe half a year ago, even half a year ago, right? It's like, oh, I would maybe do something different. But then there's also the point where you have to say, this is done. I could work on it forever and I should be done with it, right? So I'm learning. I don't know. I don't know
Awesome.
where it is.
And then I lied. I do have one more question. Are you still getting up every day at 5 to write?
I am.
Can you talk a little bit about that schedule?
Yeah. I write every day from 5 to 8 in the morning. For anyone, I've had somebody say this to me, so I'll say it here. For anyone who thinks that's impossible, it's possible because I go to bed at 9:30. That's one.
Thank you for
Okay.
clarifying.
Right? I'm not going to bed at midnight and then getting up at 5. That is not happening. Also, I was a musician for years. So my wake up time was like noon. It was like 11 and noon for years. And so like, if you think that's something you might want to do, it is possible in your life to flip it, right? Like it just depends on what you want to do. But I do it because it's the thing I'm excited about the most in my day. And if I get to do it in the morning, then I can put up with all the other BS throughout the rest of the day, right? Because I got to do that thing. The only thing that matters to me, I did it. And now I'm going to go through my day knowing that I got to do the thing.
Awesome. I just was so impressed when you said it before. And so I don't think everybody has to get up at 5 o'clock. And I'm saying like it's a requirement, but that it's possible, right?
Yeah, the schedule is the thing, right? Like knowing you're going to be there every day. Because if you have a crappy day, you just go, well, I'm coming back tomorrow. We'll see what happens then. Like, no skin off my back. I'll be here again tomorrow. So, yeah.
So terrific to see you and to see you
Yes.
just shine so brightly and just like kick some ass. It's great. And thank you so much for reading to us tonight. I don't know if you can hear all the silent applause.
Thank you, Charlotte. You've helped me so much. Charlotte is incredible. I would not be here doing these things if it were not for Charlotte. So thank you.
You're very welcome, and not to dismiss the role of a supportive teacher, but you're the one doing the work. like it's a two-way street. So it's just so awesome, and that story's incredible. So thank you so much for reading to us.
Yeah.
And
can I answer one of these questions right here that Haiti had?
Sure.
Haiti was asking about transformation of the foot. Remind me of foot that is diabetic. I wonder, since it is also a Latinx family within which diabetes happens with frequency, is there a parallel at all? It's interesting because I have been trying to write a little bit about that because I have had family members who have lost a foot. In this story, not particularly. Thank you so much, though, for making that sort of parallel, because now I'll be thinking a little bit about that. But I have been thinking about that in terms of short stories and the way that I have been thinking about short stories, the way that I think about bodies in short stories, in particular, in what I'm working on in my collection. So I am thinking about those things. So thank you so much, Haiti, for that question.
Yeah, go ahead. Victoria. Yeah, go ahead. We can't hear you.
Sorry, I couldn't figure out the unmute. I was just so curious because, yes, I knew someone who was in a chair, with the 1 foot up, and her body slowly degraded and she lost her foot. Then it kept going up and up her leg. Mm-hmm. And so I know that. But then, when you said press against the skin and it turns white, that of course happens with the suntan too. And then I was just intrigued because obviously you told us ahead of time, this is a fairy tale. Mm-hmm. And I knew this is something magical, but it was so rooted in this experience that I recognize it. And so may I ask you, it's just like, there's a liminal thing happening here between the mortal world, and then all of a sudden it turns into this husband spirit. But could you tell, I don't even know what my question is, but how did it happen? How did you collapse these two? How do they penetrate each other in your head?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think also because it was a fairy tale, I knew I was entering a space where sort of anything could happen, right? So I again, but I was also making choices that were just funny to me, like the idea of a ghost haunting just a foot. I actually dreamed that the night before. I literally dreamed my sister's foot was haunted. And so I just thought, that's a great fairy tale. I don't know what's going to happen, but that's a great fairy tale. Thank you. I just actually remembered that when you said that. Yes, I actually dreamed that. Yeah, I to be honest, like a lot of my work is like this, like it is, those two spaces mixing, right? My last story I was working on for a workshop was about a demon who is like what do you call it? An imaginary friend for like an 11-year-old, right? Like I love that stuff. I've just always been attracted to sort of, those sorts of stories. So maybe my mind just naturally goes to those places. I don't know. I mean, my dreams obviously do, right? Because I dreamed it. So I don't know.
I think we could talk a long time. So I will say this, if you want to read for the open mic, go ahead and put your name in the chat and I'll call on you in just a second. I do think it's really interesting, Stephanie, the idea that you had been thinking about diabetes and the impact, and like, let that get in there and then the other things get in there and you're not sure whether things are going to come out connected or not. It's just really interesting.
Yeah.
What was the calcitines? What was the English?
What is Soxus calcitines? And my mom would say socatines.
Socatines.
So she's already saying the word like socks. Why do you have to say that? But yeah, she did that for all kinds of things. So yeah, that's a little bit of life there in that story.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. And all good wishes for your novel and the short stories that you're doing, because it seems like you're on a roll. So.
Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you all so much.